Welcome all to the Sephirah Center of Shamanism. My name is Luke, experienced practitioner and mentor of the shamanic and occult sciences. It's my honor to be back after a 2-week break. Lots of powerful initiatory processes have been taking place, and I feel ready to speak about a very potent subject, very complex subject, very misunderstood subject, and that is the void, also known as the abyss, and the beast of 666, also known as Shugal Choronzon. A massive subject for anybody who is wanting to get into occult initiation and be successful at it. We're going to be delving into what the beast of 666 actually is, meaning what Shugal Choronzon actually is from a healing and evolutionary standpoint, how to best approach the beast of 666 from an initiatory standpoint, as well as how we can utilize the dissolving energies of the void to merge with our inner child and step into our truth and authenticity. Extremely juicy subject for both experienced practitioners and newbies who are interested in deep occult initiation. So if this interests you, definitely stay tuned. So the abyss is a concept which is extremely misunderstood. Okay, I make this video from a place of offering to the spirits of the abyss, specifically Shugal and Choronzon, purely because of the amount of misinformation there is both on the internet and within ancient texts surrounding what the role of these spirits and currents of energy actually are from a healing and evolutionary standpoint. So Shugal and Choronzon are two aspects of the same being, two aspects of the infamous beast of 666. It's called the beast of 666 because the numerology of both Shugal and Choronzon, the numerological value equals 333 for both Shugal and Choronzon. So when you combine them together, it equals 666. What we are referring to are two aspects. One aspect is feminine, which is Choronzon, and one aspect is masculine, which is Shugal. So they are the masculine and feminine aspects of the beast. Okay, and many people don't realize that the concept of the abyss refers specifically to the deepest aspects of the unconscious mind. And when we talk about the beast of 666, we are talking about some of the deepest, most rejected aspects of ourselves. And we are referring specifically to the inner child here. Okay, we are referring specifically to the most repressed aspects of your inner child that exists within the deepest corners of your psyche. So a lot of people do advise approaching Shugal and Choronzon from the perspective of actually battling the beast, okay, from the perspective of actually trying to slay the dragon. Okay, the role of Shugal and Choronzon is to guard the gates of the night side, to guard the gates to the higher levels of wisdom and understanding that is representative of the supernal triad within Kabbalistic tradition. So their role is to disperse what no longer serves the soul. You have to face Shugal and Choronzon if you are going through Kabbalistic initiation, but even if you are going through a different type of occult-based initiation, you are going to face some form of abyssal realm at some point. For example, within Sumerian mythology, Pazuzu takes on the role of Choronzon. It really depends on what tradition you're really you're really looking at. The Necronomicon, if we're referring to the Simon Necronomicon, the Necronomicon has its own version of the Abyssal Crossing that takes place after you've crossed through or passed through a particular gate. So it's important to understand that the concept of the abyss does show within many different traditions, many different initiatory systems, and is approached slightly differently. Going back to the example of Kabbalistic tradition referring to Shugal and Choronzon as the masculine and feminine aspects of the beast, Sumerian mythology referring specifically to Pazuzu as the beast of 666. Again, it really depends on what tradition you are looking at. So if we approach Shugal and Choronzon from the perspective of trying to destroy them, from the perspective of trying to slay them, from the perspective of trying to overcome them, it's going to be extremely unwise. It's going to result in a lot of unwanted chaos to unfold. And may I say, chaos unfolding that is not constructive. And when I say not constructive, I mean chaos that could literally push you to the edge of insanity. Okay, the abyss is a very serious initiatory process that if you approach it in a way of trying to fight the beast, then you are fighting with your own inner child and you are trying to go into this initiatory system, battling your own shadow and trying to overcome the beast. Okay, the amount of times I've heard people on YouTube and even in books say, I've overcome Choronzon, you need to overcome the beast, overcome Choronzon. The question I then ask is, can you overcome your shadow? Have you transcended your shadow? Yeah, have you transcended your inner child? It's not possible to do that within a physical body. Okay, so if you go in to these initiatory systems trying to fight the beast, then the beast is going to disperse you and it's not going to be comfortable and it's going to re-traumatize you. Okay, it's a bit like journeying to your inner child and trying to beat up your inner child. Okay, it is the same thing. When you are facing the beast, you are not actually facing a beast. You are facing a beast that has been villainized and rejected and referred to as a beast, classed as a beast. Okay, Choronzon represents all of the aspects of your psyche that you have rejected and referred to as ugly and nasty about yourself. Okay, so he is going to disperse everything that does not serve you from the perspective of actually keeping you encased, keeping your inner child trapped. Okay, when you face the beast, you are going on the ultimate quest of freeing your inner child. Okay, when you are going through the abyssal crossing that is introduced or shown within Kabbalistic initiation through the Tree of Life and Tree of Death, how you know that you are doing it successfully and going through it successfully is if you are feeling the elevation in consciousness as a result of it, and if you are feeling a merging with your inner child. Okay, what happens in the abyss if you are doing it right, and everybody has different experiences and different initiations that they need to go through in order to get to this point, but the process of crossing the abyss is dissolving the layers of your false self that are imprisoning your inner child and ultimately creating a merging between you and your inner child. In other words, when you start to work with Choronzon through your abyssal crossing, you will start to feel like a child in that respect. Yeah, you'll start to get the same feelings that you did when you were a child. You'll start to get flashbacks of when you were a child. Okay, and it's like, honestly, for me going through the abyssal crossing, working with Choronzon and Shugal once again, it has been a process of literally feeling like a child who wants his mummy. Yeah, that is the abyssal energy. That's what the abyssal energy has been like for me within the clifothic abyss. It has been a process of me wanting my mummy in that respect, yeah, and needing to hold myself, hold my inner child, and has really created a big merging with some of the deepest, most repressed aspects of the child. Okay, and that is amazing and is going to benefit everybody who interacts with it if they are ready to go through such a process. Okay, if they are not ready to go through such a process, and many people are not, yeah, regardless of the amount of training and initiation that they have been through, many people are still not ready to go in to face their inner child and retrieve their true innocence because of the trauma that took place, because it is uncomfortable to feel and embrace. So the abyss is an extremely transformative process of initiation that will sensitize your nervous system significantly, will change the way that your body functions, will change the feel within your body, and ultimately will reconnect you with some of the deepest, most repressed portions of your inner child. Okay, and with the abyss, this often does happen through chaos. Okay, it does happen through something outside of you going wrong, whether it's like, encountering somebody who is, projecting upon you the things that caused you to be traumatized in the first place. In that respect, somebody comes in as a literal mirror of something that you experienced as a child. Okay, what happens is that some of the people around you will be used as a vessel for the beast. Okay, and the beast will work through these people with one intention, and that is to shatter the shell that you have established around your heart. Okay, shatter the shell that you have built to encase your vulnerability, and ultimately dissolve it so that you can move back into harmony with your heart, with your truth and authenticity. The veil will be lifted within the abyssal realms. Okay, Choronzon does not just dissolve, but he shatters. Okay, he will shatter the layers of the false self. You will not be able to hold on to them, and you are going to be pushed into self-honesty, pushed into a place whereby you have to be honest with yourself and other people. Okay, this is a very big process of initiation, but is one that is extremely life-changing if it is approached in the right way. Okay, many people on YouTube and in many books frame Choronzon as being this terrifying being. This is a spirit that knows that he is probably the most feared demon, but more than anything, this spirit is your friend, is your ally. And if you try and fight this spirit, then that is what is going to cause the resistance. And that is what is going to put stress on your nervous system when you go through this initiatory process. Okay, so what we are referring to specifically when we say crossing the abyss is the process of opening the chasm, crossing into the liminal space that is separating the highest levels of creation with the lower densities. When we refer to Kabbalistic initiation, we are referring specifically to the hidden sphere of the Da'ath. Okay, the Da'ath means death or knowledge and is the gateway between the worlds. Okay, Darth or Da'ath represents the gateway into the primordial chaos that birthed everything into existence. Okay, so there are two spheres of Da'ath, meaning there are two types of Da'athic initiation that you can go through with Kabbalistic initiation. The first is initiation through the sephirothic abyss. Okay, the sephirothic abyss is the masculine aspect of the Kabbalah, the angelic aspect of the Kabbalah, also known as the tree of life. And this abyss separates the supernal triad of Binah, Hokmah, and Kether, understanding, wisdom, and crown, from the seven lower Sephiroth. So when you cross the Sephirothic abyss, you will face Shugal. Okay, Shugal is the masculine aspect of the abyss, who will take you through a process of dispersion in order for you to build the necessary vessel to be able to hold the extremely expansive energies of the supernal triad. Okay, the supernal triad hold extremely high energy. Moving through those spheres creates the sensation that you are in a higher dimensional plane, like you really feel that within your body when moving through the supernal triad, but your system needs to be prepared for such an endeavor, and that is the process of crossing the sephirothic abyss. Okay, many people do not describe the differences between the two abyssal crossings, okay, but the most well-known abyssal crossing takes place through the sephirothic abyss, whereby you move from Malkuth, go through the alchemy of Malkuth, Yesod, Hod, Netzach, Tifereth, Gevurah, Chesed, and then cross the abyss, opening the sphere of Darth, okay, crossing into Binah, and then into the supernal triad. Okay, so when you are crossing the sephirothic abyss, you are doing it for the purpose of angelic initiation, to be able to clear your vessel, to be able to effectively hold and process the energies of the supernal triad. Okay, Shugal will take you through a significant process of dispersion and will make you descend into the abyss in order to rise back up the other side and into the supernal triad. Okay, the Sephirothic abyss is a very potent initiatory process that is necessary for you to be able to effectively taste and integrate the energies of the upper triad, the supernal triad. Okay, but it differs from the other abyssal plane, which is in the clifoth. Okay, the clifothic abyss, which separates the shadow aspects of the supernal triad, which is Setariel, Gagiel, and Thaumiel. It separates those three spheres from the lower seven spheres. So instead of going up through the light aspects of Malkuth, Yesod, Hod, Netzach, Tifereth, Geburah, and Chesed, you would go through Nehimoth, also known as Lilith. You would then go through Gamaliel, ruled by Lilith. You would then go through Samiel, ruled by Adramelech. You would then go through Arabzarak, ruled by Baal. You would then go through Thagirion, ruled by Belphegor, Golachab, ruled by Asmodeus, and Ga'ag Shibla, also known as Ganchikoth, ruled by Astaroth, before crossing the Clifothic Abyss to then reach Setariel, Gagiel, and Thaumiel. Okay, so the process of crossing the Clifothic Abyss is a different initiatory process entirely. Okay, how they really differ is A, the aspect of the beast that you are facing. When you're crossing the Sephirothic Abyss, you are facing Shugal, the masculine aspect, and then in the Clifothic Abyss, you are facing Choronzon, okay, the feminine and more harsh aspect, okay, but it's if you sort of bring Shugal and Choronzon down together, if you evoke them, it's hard to actually tell them apart. But Choronzon, in my view, does have a harsher energy and does require a lot more surrender than Shugal, purely because Shugal is a more masculine spirit, whereas Choronzon is purely feminine in nature. So when you cross the Sephirothic Abyss with the Tree of Life, it's an angelic initiation. You descend down into the abyss. This is my personal gnosis. You descend down into the abyss in order to then move up the other side. So you kind of sort of go down and then up the other side. It's like a big slope. Okay, it's a gradual descent, gradual process, and then up the other side. When you cross the Clifothic Abyss, it's a different story altogether. With the Clifothic Abyss, you are letting yourself be somewhat devoured by the black hole of the Clifothic Abyss, okay? In other words, you are traveling straight down through the Clifothic Abyss in order to reach the other side of the black hole, which is a white hole, which will spit you out into a different reality altogether. Okay, so the Sephirothic Abyss, gradual descent, slope down up the other side. Okay, disperse, disperse, disperse. You reach the bottom of the abyss, and then you could feel a sort of reconstruction happening. It gradually becomes less intense, and then you move into Binah. But in the clifothic abyss, you are diving straight into the black hole, you're traveling through it, and you are letting it reverse your energy field and change the way that your nervous system functions. What the clifothic abyss does to the nervous system specifically is that it reverses the nervous system and actually returns it to its natural state that it was in before coming into a physical body. Okay, and again, the nervous system is the kind of projector for the energy field. Yeah, so in a sense, you're changing the way that your nervous system works and functions, and you are moving back into a place whereby you are merging with your most primordial self. Okay, and that is the difference between the Clifoth and the Sephiroth. The Sephiroth, you're gaining qualities, you're building energy. Okay, you're building energy. You go up through the first 7 Sephiroth. Okay, Malkuth, Yesod, Hod, Netzach, Tifereth, Gevurah, Chesed, and then the Abyss will consolidate what you have gained, okay? It will strip away the illusion, leaving just the pure essence that you have gained from the lower Sephiroth, and then you'll be filled with new energy in the supernal triad. Whereas in the Clifothic Abyss, you're not gaining anything until you get to the supernal triad, okay? You're gaining knowledge, don't get me wrong, you're gaining expansion in consciousness, but the whole process, it's called the Tree of Death because it's dissolving. Okay, so you're dissolving all of these shells. Each clefa, each sphere represents a different shell. Okay, dissolve, 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 dissolve. In the abyss, it's fully dissolving in order to then reach the other side. Okay, the other side. Okay, the abyss is the full initiation into the night side, into a full merging with your shadow self, clearing the way for more potent initiations to unfold and for you to become more vulnerable with yourself. Okay, so the Clifothic Abyss is a big process of sensitizing the nervous system. It unleashes a lot of the stuck trauma, the trauma that is frozen within the nervous system, unleashes the inner child, okay, creates a kind of merging with the inner child and an alliance with your shadow self so that your shadow then works in your favor, okay? So it's kind of like a merging of the ego and the shadow, okay? You are not dissolving your ego when you go into the abyss. This is a big misunderstanding. Don't get me wrong. You are dissolving layers of your ego, but you are not dissolving your ego, okay? Anybody who thinks that they have dissolved their ego is speaking from their ego, okay? Even going through the Clifothic Abyss is not going to remove your ego, okay? Some people have described the Clifoth to me as a process of actually injecting poison into the ego. It's like, no, no. You're just getting rid of the layers of it that you don't need anymore. Okay, in other words, you are going through a big process of maturing the ego when you cross the abyss. Okay, it's an ego maturation process and a merging that takes place between the ego and the inner child and the ego and the shadow and the adult and the inner child, so that these different aspects of you, these different parts, can really start to work in your favor instead of against you unconsciously and then create more chaos within the reality around you. Okay, so this is a very big process of initiation, and going through the Clifothic Abyss is basically facing your inner child. Okay, that's what the beast actually is. Okay, don't get me wrong, Choronzon and Shugal, they are their own beings. They are older than any of us know, extremely old, been around for longer than any of us know, older than this multiverse. But for that reason, they mirror your deepest and most vulnerable aspects. Yeah, your deepest, most primal aspects of your consciousness is what the beast of 666 really represents. Okay, so look at the programming around the beast of 666. Okay, and how the beast of 666 is seen as a force of evil. Okay, and if you see the beast as evil, how do you see your own inner child? Yeah, how do you view your own inner child? How do you view your own shadow? Okay, this is not therapy. this is deep, primal alchemy and self-development. Okay, what you go through within the clifothic abyss cannot really be comprehended. Okay, it's emerging with the inner child, but also a test in realistically how you are able to let go and cease control of any false meaning. Okay, you got to understand that the abyss is the liminal space. Okay, the liminal space that represents almost the recycling zone. Yeah, everything that society has repressed goes into that liminal space that separates the supernal triad from the lower levels of creation. So when you're going into the abyss, you are venturing into your deep psyche, and understand that the famous quote, if you stare into the abyss for long enough, then it will start to look into you. And if you start to look at the shadow on this level, then it will look into you as well. Okay, there's no hiding in this energy. Okay, the veil, as I mentioned before, the veil is going to be lifted, and the food for Shugal and Karonzon is your false self. Okay, they are there to disperse. Okay, they represent a powerful ancient initiatory technology through dispersion. Okay, massive dissolving will take place when you move through it, whether you go through the sephirothic abyss or the clifothic abyss. However, the clifothic abyss is a more intense process because you are committing to permanently altering your nervous system and energy field, and it does change the way your body feels. Like right now, being in the abyssal energy, my body feels, yeah, it's like I feel like I'm floating. Yeah, it's a strange place. It's like you just kind of gotta just accept the meaninglessness of everything in that respect and stop looking for a definitive meaning. And then once you allow yourself to transition into the true realm of the night side, then you can start to, in a sense, cultivate your own reality, cultivate your own multiverse, and then shape the reality around you in accordance with your true self in that respect. Yeah, understanding that the true self is not just one thing, but the whole purpose of going through the clifothic abyss anyway is to move into the realm of primordial chaos, dissolve the illusion so that you have room to build something new, something more fluid, something that supports continuous evolution, and something that is not patriarchal in nature. And when I say not patriarchal, I mean not, sort of you get here and then that's it. And then because you're attaching to what you've attained, then you have to let go of it eventually. The purpose here is essentially embodying the primordial dragon. Yeah, the primordial serpentine intelligence that dwells within the primordial chaos that existed before everything. Yeah, so as you travel through the abyss, it will feel extremely familiar. Yeah, you've been here before. Yeah, this is where you've come from. Okay, you're traveling through the dark womb that has represented your way into this multiverse. And what you're doing is that you're reversing that, dissolving the illusion, and then clearing space. Yeah, clearing space. Essentially, you are decoding the matrix, if you want a new age term for that. Okay, and what that really means is decoding the different layers. Okay, much like the Matrix, how the true human form is not held within the Matrix itself, but is held within the different shells. Yeah, and the Clifoth is symbolic of those shells, the personas that you have created to make sense of the chaos. Okay, whereas the Sephiroth is, building upon those energies, learning how to gain energy. Okay, whereas the Clifoth is dissolving it so that you can taste more of the Sephiroth. Okay, many people think that it's darkness versus light. Yeah, it's not. They work together, just in opposite ways. Okay, because the beast is both masculine and feminine. Okay, the beast is not just feminine, not just dark, it's not just Choronzon. Okay, you can't have Choronzon without its masculine counterpart, which is Shugal. Much like you cannot have the light without the dark, and you cannot have the dark without the light. Okay, the dark without the light is entirely meaningless, as you find out when you travel into the abyss, because you see the chasm, you see how meaningless everything actually is, and that there isn't any actual definitive meaning to anything at all. And the light brings purpose to the abyss. Yeah, and that's why we're here within this multiverse, to define a specific purpose and ultimately to reshape it. And traveling through the abyss is taking responsibility for moving back to the goddess. Okay, that's what crossing the abyss really is. You are traveling through the black hole back into the dark womb that birthed everything into existence. If we refer to Kenneth Grant's way of referring to it in The Night Side of Eden, you can call it Universe A and Universe B. Universe A being the predefined multiverse of light, matter, and form that we are dwelling within, and Universe B representing the primordial chaos, the limitless space, the pure potential that is hidden, but where true godhood is born. Yeah, so in a sense, you are deifying yourself by traveling through the abyss. Okay, at least the clifothic abyss anyway. The purpose of the sephirothic abyss is not quite the same. As I said, the sephirothic abyss is an angelic initiation that is designed to clear your vessel, disperse your vessel of illusion so that you can be filled with the divine energy of the supernal triad and be able to integrate it into your body. Once you finish Kether, you will travel back down the tree and ground everything back into the body. Whereas the clifothic abyss is literal process of returning to the goddess, dissolving the illusion, and then once that illusion has been dissolved, you can tap into that pure love that is within the darkness, that pure love of the goddess, of the void, that pure love that is responsible for birthing everything into existence, and you can learn to merge with that love and cultivate your own reality from a space of truth and authenticity, and learn how to embody the ongoing evolutionary process of the primordial serpents that dwell within the infinite space of the primordial chaos. Okay, so the beast of 666 is not to be fought with. Okay, if you go into this process fighting with the beast, it's going to be a very short fight. You are going to lose. Okay, and even if you don't lose, you can fight and fight and fight. Even if you don't lose, eventually you will, because you will have gone in and battled your own inner child. Yeah, and said, I'm not letting you be vulnerable. I'm not letting you express yourself. Okay, so the abyss is the chasm that holds everything that society has denied, and Shugal and Choronzon represent the deepest, most exiled aspects of your psyche that you need to face in order to be able to elevate your consciousness through the supernal triad and to be able to really merge with your truth and authenticity, which is the purpose of this. Okay, so very, very potent initiatory system to go through, but just a bit of clarity on the difference between the two abyssal realms. Okay, Sephiroth, ruled by Shugal, angelic initiation, designed to flesh out the initiations that you've received in the earlier part of the tree, flesh out the illusion, okay, leaving just the pure essence underneath, so that you can then have the necessary vessel to be able to contain the energies of Binah, Hokmah, and Kether, the supernal triad. And the clifothic abyss is the returning to the goddess. Yeah, the transformation of your energy field back into its natural primordial form. Okay, it's very, very potent processes of initiation, highly misunderstood. Okay. So I think that is everything that I needed to speak about in today's video. Okay, beautiful spirits. Shugal and Choronzon are amazing. Amazing when you invoke them together. Amazing when you work with them both together. Okay, and just remember that one is going to lead to the other. Okay, you work with the masculine energy. Eventually, you're going to have to embrace the feminine. Yeah, so what many people find, they work through the Sephiroth, then eventually they'll go through the Clifoth. The same with the Clifoth. You work through the Clifoth, eventually you'll have to embrace the Sephiroth. All of it is there to help you taste the fruits of your own divinity. Let's not overcomplicate it. Okay. So if you have any questions, please do get in touch. I have left a link or a few links in the description of this video to my 2 membership programs. First link is my Patreon. Second link is my premium membership service, which gives you more direct access to me. So if that interests you, definitely check that out. But for now, thank you guys. Hit like and subscribe if this video was helpful to you, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you.